Hello, everybody, and welcome to another At Marketing Conversations. I'm Ian Sefferman of Mobile Dev HQ, here with Ryan Morel of Gamehouse, Robi Ganguli of Apptentive, and we brought back special guest Darwin, who's got his tennis ball today. We're doing predictions. This is, I think, probably the last At Marketing Conversations that we're going to do for the year, and so we're doing predictions today. In this segment, we're going to talk about predictions of App Store optimization and organic discovery in 2014. And I think, so my high level prediction, which we can discuss whether or not we believe is true, is that in 2014 we begin to see, or at least we further see, the convergence of web and mobile happening, where the lines between the two in 2009, 2010, 2011 were very distinct. Apps and mobile web were very different. Everything was separated. Today we're starting to see those things start to blend, right? Because mobile's becoming the primary place for a lot of people to use the internet. And people are trying to figure out, if mobile is the primary place, how do we figure out as a user where to find things on mobile? How do we figure out as a publisher where we get our things noticed in mobile? And we've had announcements like Google App Indexing, which is sort of we're going to do deep linking into apps from web search on a device. And that becomes a really interesting way to re-engage with your users organically. So, high level, do you guys agree or disagree with the fact that the convergence of web and mobile?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's true for my own personal life. I can't figure out which device I'm on half the time.
Yeah. So, and I think for me, it actually started with iOS 7 a little bit, and simply because I started noticing that the App Store experience and the app experience and the Safari experience started to look very similar, almost to the point, and they kind of all work the same, right? And to the point where I wasn't really quite sure what I was in. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think? You had a theory earlier today about sort of if there is a convergence of web and mobile, what that actually means to Google's business and how it could potentially be a threat.
So my wild theory is the App Store is the greatest potential threat to Google's business. And for all the reasons we just talked about, right? So we know that there is a massive shift to mobile happening right now. And in a world where that shift were happening to the mobile web, this would be one conversation, but it's actually a shift to mobile apps. And the discovery engine for mobile apps are app stores. And so instead of people going to search for something on Google, they're likely going to the App Store to search for something. That's no revenue for Google right there, at least within iOS and Windows Mobile and kind of all these other factors. So I think it's clear that Google recognized that as a potential threat, right? And then starts doing it's kind of like the innovation we talked about last time is, they need to protect as much of their horse as they can. But I see the App Store as, that's a huge threat to them, just their traditional advertising business, which frankly funds all these other kind of skunkworks projects, which they don't make any money on.
Right. Do you agree or disagree? And if you agree, sort of what should the takeaway to a marketer be?
So I mean, I agree. I think we've talked about a lot of this stuff this year, right? You can go back through many of these where we had conversations. It's clear that the shift is changing, and I think the marketers need to constantly be figuring out thinking from the consumer's perspective, how their life is evolving, what they're doing, and because so many people are just figuring out that their devices are really super smart and can answer lots of questions for them, that unlocks a lot of value for marketers. They have to figure out how to be the answers to these mobile questions that people have. So if you're a branded marketer, you sell charcoal, what questions do people have that you can answer on their device and play in the App Store really nicely? So maybe you're a charcoal manufacturer, but what you're talking about is how to grill stuff appropriately, right?
This is coming from the grill master, by the way.
Yeah, well, I do love a good charcoal grill. But, right, but if you think about it that way, then you start to see the App Store as this really great lead generation tool. Yep. And I think we're seeing some people do this really well, and that's why they're coming to you and saying, oh, this is actually a great channel to acquire customers.
Yep. Yeah, and to me that points to when we think about organic as opposed to paid or anything else. Like to me, organic discovery and re-engagement is we are 0.5% there, right? Like from an intention perspective, from a feature perspective, from a business perspective, and so we've got 99.5% to go, and 2014 seems like a great year as all of this is starting to happen to begin to really dive in and invest early and make sure that you're going to win there.
Yeah. Well, I think the other important point here is I think we're maybe in year 3 of a 15-year cycle or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think all the talk of the mobile web eating apps at some point, it's time for that like to end.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that should be our prediction, is that next year on 2014 we will never use the question mobile app or HTML5 in app marketing conversations.
Yeah, and I mean, if we like break down, if we just like step back right for a second and say, what is the internet? And the internet at its core is the ability to transfer data between 2 devices, right? And ultimately, it's how that data gets rendered to be consumed by the user. And the answer, as far as I can tell, is always going to be it's going to be better consumed in an app than it is in a web browser. And there's probably no other way around that. So we should just stop talking about that. And marketers need to be thinking about that, right? Like your website's important, but your app might be as, if not more important.
Yeah, totally. Every brand has to be on board. Apps are some of the biggest threats to businesses today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent, like consumer time optimization, right? If that's a job, but if you're optimizing for consumer time, you're finding that by having an app, you get more of it. It's like cheating almost.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're on their device, because now both operating systems are saying you can search through those apps in some way.
Yep. That's great. All right. Anything else? I think that's pretty good. Cool. So invest early in organic discovery, engagement, re-engagement, and be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and watch the other segments.